In the jewelry store, my jealous sister called me shadow and slapped me across the face. A billionaire walked in, touched my wife again, and saw her froze, after I was treated like a VIP. Afterwards, I stammered. My sister, Amber, always thought she was better than me. Always, but last Tuesday, when she slapped me across the face in a fancy jewelry store, she had no idea she was actually handing me the keys to my dream life. What the hell happened next? You won't believe it. I'm Jessica, 27 years old, and that Tuesday started like any other, but with a rare hint of celebration. I was in Bellamy's, this unbelievably upscale jewelry store, admiring a pair of diamond earrings. I'd been saving for months, after years of just barely scraping by. This purchase? It was a symbol. A milestone. Then, she stormed in. My sister, Amber. Her face was twisted with rage, and before I could even open my mouth to say a word, her hand connected with my cheek. The sound echoed through the silent store. It was loud. It was humiliating. Growing up with Amber was like living in the shadow of a tornado. She was 2 years older, always prettier, always the center of attention. While I worked after-school jobs since I was 16, hustling for every penny, Amber just flitted. Between hobbies, between friend groups, completely confident that our parents would cover her. And they always did. Our childhood home in suburban Phoenix wasn't anything special, but we never went without. Dad was a high school math teacher, Mom managed a small boutique. They weren't wealthy, but they scraped together enough to give Amber everything she wanted. Dance lessons, cheerleading, new clothes every season. Me? I saved my babysitting money for art supplies and graphic design software. Jessica, be reasonable, Mom would say whenever I dared to point out the disparity. Your sister needs more support. You've always been so independent. Independent wasn't a choice, Mom, I'd think to myself. It was survival. By 20, I was out. Moved out, working full-time at a print shop, taking night classes for my graphic design degree. Amber, on the other hand, stayed home until 25. That's when our parents finally bought her a condo down payment, a graduation gift after her third attempt at community college. Seriously. Last month, though, something changed for me. It was my 5th anniversary at Boyd Creative. I'd climbed the ladder, from junior designer to lead on major accounts. My boss, Natalie, had just given me a substantial raise after I landed this huge Peterson campaign. For once, I actually had breathing room in my budget. I decided it was time. Time for something I'd never allowed myself, real diamond earrings. The Sunday before the jewelry store incident, we had our monthly family dinner at my parents' house. I was so excited to share my promotion news. But, as usual, Amber commandeered the conversation immediately. Everyone, I have an announcement, she shrieked, flashing a massive diamond ring. Trevor proposed. We're getting married next spring. Trevor, her boyfriend of 5 months, looked deeply uncomfortable beside her. He worked in commercial real estate, drove an expensive car, pretty much his only appeal to Amber, from what I could tell. Oh, sweetheart, that's wonderful. Mom rushed to embrace her. Dad clapped Trevor on the back. My news? When I finally managed to squeeze in a mention of my promotion, Mom just nodded distractedly. That's nice, honey. Now, Amber, tell us how he proposed. That night, I solidified my decision. Those earrings weren't an indulgence. They were a statement. A reminder that my accomplishments mattered, even if only to me. Bellamy's wasn't the most expensive jewelry store, but it was certainly the most intimidating. Crystal chandeliers, tailored black suits on the staff, security cameras everywhere. I'd walked past it dozens of times, never daring to enter. That Tuesday morning, I took a half-day off. I put on my best navy dress, styled my hair, applied subtle makeup. I even wore heels, which for me is practically a miracle. I wanted to look the part. I wanted to belong. Pushing open the heavy glass door, I was greeted by soft classical music and the scent of expensive perfume. A tall, elegant woman named Tara approached with a warm smile. "Welcome to Bellamy's. How may I assist you today?" My mouth went dry. "I'm looking for diamond earrings. Something small, but good quality. It's my first real purchase." Instead of the condescension I feared, Tara's eyes lit up. "Your first diamonds. That's a special milestone. Let's find something perfect for you." She led me to a display, explaining cuts and clarity, selecting several pairs. I was just starting to relax when the door chimed, announcing another customer. I wouldn't have turned around, except for the familiar voice that cut through the refined atmosphere like a jagged knife. "Oh my God, Jessica! What are you doing here?" Amber stood in the doorway, flanked by her two friends. She was wearing skin-tight white jeans, a pink silk blouse, heels that made her 3 inches taller than me. Her blonde hair cascaded perfectly. "Are you lost?" she continued, her voice carrying. "Isn't this place a bit out of your league?" Tara's eyebrows rose slightly, but her professional demeanor remained intact. "Your sister is looking at our diamond collection. Would you care to join us, sister?" Amber laughed, striding toward us with her friends trailing. "Yes, unfortunately, we share DNA, though you'd never guess looking at us." The implied comparison hung in the air. Amber had always been the classic blonde, blue-eyed beauty. I took after my dad's side, darker features, more athletic. "I didn't know you were shopping today," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Are you looking for wedding bands?" "Just browsing." Amber shrugged, peering into the case. "Trevor and I will probably go to Cartier in Scottsdale." "What are you buying? Costume jewelry?" Tara cleared her throat. "Actually, your sister has excellent taste. She's considering these half-carat diamond studs." Amber's eyes narrowed. "Half-carat? With your salary? That seems excessive." "I got a promotion," I said, feeling heat rise to my face. "I can afford them." "A promotion at that little print shop? Impressive." Amber's tone dripped with sarcasm. "What does that mean? An extra $1 an hour?" Her friend snickered. An older couple across the store was watching us with disapproving expressions. "It's a graphic design agency, not a print shop," I corrected. "And the raise is substantial." "Well, good for you," Amber replied, picking up another pair of earrings. "Though, if you had any financial sense, you'd invest that money instead of blowing it on jewelry." "But that's always been your problem, hasn't it?" "Poor decision-making." 5 years of therapy had taught me not to take Amber's bait, but her words still stung. Tara, sensing the tension, intervened. "These would complement your complexion beautifully," she said, holding the earrings to my ear. "The princess cut catches light magnificently. They're perfect." I agreed, deliberately ignoring Amber. "I'll take them." "Seriously?" Amber stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming. "You're going to spend thousands on earrings right after I announced my engagement? This is so typical of you." The accusation blindsided me. "What does my buying earrings have to do with your engagement? You can't stand that I'm the center of attention for once." Amber's voice rose, causing a security guard near the entrance to glance our way. "For once," I laughed, incredulously. "You've always been the center of attention. I've spent my life in your shadow." "Ladies," Tara interjected. "Perhaps we could." "In my shadow?" Amber cut her off. "That's rich. You're the one Mom and Dad brag about, with your scholarships and career. Poor Amber can't compete with perfect Jessica." The distortion of reality stunned me. Had we grown up in the same house? Had she not noticed the countless times our parents had prioritized her needs, her wants, her dramas? That's not true, and you know it, I said quietly, conscious of the audience we'd attracted. 2 more sales associates had paused. An elegant woman browsing necklaces had stepped back from her display. You know what? I don't have to listen to this. I turned to Tara. I'd like to purchase the earrings now. Don't you dare walk away from me. Amber grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging into my skin. I pulled away. Don't make a scene, Amber. This is embarrassing. I'm embarrassing? She shrieked. You're the one buying jewelry you can't afford just to upstage my engagement. Not everything is about you. I snapped, my patience finally gone. This has nothing to do with your engagement. I earned this money. I saved for months, and I'm buying something nice for myself for once. Tara discreetly slid the earrings into a velvet box and moved toward the register, clearly hoping to expedite the transaction. Amber followed, her face flushing. How much are those earrings anyway? Tara hesitated, looking at me for permission. I nodded. These are priced at $2,800, she said calmly. Amber's jaw dropped. $3,000? Are you insane? That's what Mom and Dad spent on my entire semester of college that they paid for. I worked through school, I reminded her. This is my money. It's a waste. A complete waste. Amber's voice echoed through the store. You're just trying to prove something because you're jealous of my ring, my fiancé, my life. I'm not jealous of you, Amber. I never have been. The simple truth seemed to snap something in her. Her face contorted with rage, and before I could react, her hand swung through the air and connected with my cheek. Smack! The sound cracked like a whip in the hushed store. Pain bloomed across my face as tears sprang to my eyes. The store fell completely silent. The classical music seemed to mute itself. My hand went to my burning cheek. In 27 years, through all our fights, she had never struck me. Never. Tara's mouth formed a perfect O of shock. Amber's friends froze. The security guard straightened and started moving toward us. And then, a deep, authoritative voice broke the silence from behind me. Touch my wife again, and see what happens. The voice belonged to a tall man in his late 30s, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that screamed custom tailoring. His dark hair was styled with precision, and his jawline looked carved from marble. But what struck me most were his eyes, steel gray and absolutely unwavering as they fixed on Amber. Excuse me? Amber stammered, her bravado faltering. The man stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of me. You heard me. If you raise a hand to my wife again, you'll regret it. Confusion rippled through the store. Tara looked between us with wide eyes. Even the security guard paused. Your wife? Amber repeated, her gaze darting between the stranger and me. I was equally confused, too stunned to speak. Wife? I've never seen this man before in my life. Yes, my wife, the man continued, his voice controlled but hard as granite. And I don't appreciate witnessing her being assaulted in public. A flicker of fear crossed Amber's face as she took in the man's expensive watch, the quality of his suit, his commanding presence. For once, she seemed at a loss for words. The man turned slightly toward me, and I caught a flash of confusion in his eyes as he saw my face more clearly. His confident expression faltered for just a moment before he recovered. Claire, are you all right? He asked, his tone softening considerably. I'm not, I began. But he'd already turned back to Amber. I don't know who you are or what your problem is, but this behavior is completely unacceptable, he continued. I suggest you leave before I have security escort you out. Amber's shock was giving way to indignation. Do you even know who I am? That's my sister, not your wife. Her name is Jessica. The man blinked, looking back at me more carefully. A slight flush crept up his neck as realization dawned. I apologize for the confusion, he said, his composure slipping momentarily. But my point stands. Your behavior is inexcusable. I finally found my voice. Who are you? Harrison Walsh, he replied, extending his hand. And I sincerely apologize for the misunderstanding. From behind, you look remarkably like my wife, Claire. The name registered instantly. Harrison Walsh. The founder of Innovate Tech. A software company that had revolutionized digital security. His net worth was estimated at billions. His face occasionally appeared in business magazines. You're Harrison Walsh? Amber's tone shifted dramatically. Hostility morphed into sickening sweetness. Oh my goodness, what an honor. I'm such a fan of your work. Harrison didn't even look at her. Are you all right? He asked me again. That looked painful. I nodded, my cheek still stinging. It's an honest case of mistaken identity. The mistake was mine, but my concern is genuine, Harrison said. Family disagreements shouldn't escalate to physical violence. It wasn't a disagreement. Amber interjected, trying to salvage the situation. We were just playing around, sisters. You know, Jessica knows I didn't mean anything by it. The boldness of the lie made my blood boil. That's not true. You slapped me because I wouldn't let you make me feel small about buying something nice for myself. That's absurd. Amber protested, looking at Harrison with a pleading expression. Jessica always exaggerates. She's upset because I just got engaged and she's still single. Harrison's expression remained impassive. I witnessed the entire exchange. You were belittling her accomplishments and attempting to make her feel guilty for spending her own money. When that didn't work, you resorted to physical aggression. The security guard had finally reached our group, accompanied by a distinguished older man in a pinstriped suit. Mr. Walsh, the older man said, his voice deferential. Is there a problem? Mr. Bellamy, Harrison nodded. This woman, he gestured to Amber, just assaulted another customer. So, this was the Bellamy, the owner himself. I did no such thing. Amber protested. This is all a misunderstanding. Tell them, Jessica. All eyes turned to me. For a moment, I felt the familiar urge to smooth things over, to minimize the incident for the sake of family peace. It was what I'd always done. But something had shifted inside me when Amber's palm connected with my face. She slapped me, I said clearly, my voice steady. Because I decided to buy these earrings instead of listening to her criticize me. Mr. Bellamy's expression hardened. We have a zero-tolerance policy for violent behavior in our establishment. I'm afraid I must ask you to leave immediately. You can't be serious. Amber sputtered. Do you know who our father is? I don't believe that's relevant, Mr. Bellamy replied coolly. Frank, please escort this lady and her companions to the exit. The security guard stepped forward. This way, please. Jessica, you can't let them do this. Amber's voice rose again. Tell them we were just having a sisterly spat. I said nothing, watching as Frank gently but firmly guided Amber toward the door. Her friends followed, their expressions mortified. At the door, Amber turned back. You'll regret this, Jessica. Wait until Mom and Dad hear about how you humiliated me in public. After they left, the store remained uncomfortably quiet. Harrison Walsh turned to me, genuine regret in his expression. I've made this situation more complicated, and I apologize. Please allow me to make it up to you. Perhaps coffee after you've completed your purchase? I'd like to explain properly. I hesitated, unsure what to make of this surreal turn of events. But something in his earnest expression made me nod. Okay, coffee would be nice. Mr. Bellamy personally completed my transaction, apologizing profusely for the unfortunate incident. I signed the credit card slip with shaking hands, still processing the whirlwind of events. As Tara handed me the distinctive blue bag containing my earrings, Harrison Walsh waited patiently by the door. I joined him, wondering what strange twist of fate had brought a billionaire tech mogul into my family drama. Harrison suggested a small cafe around the corner, away from the busy main street. It was an elegant space with private booths and soft jazz. The kind of place I'd normally walk past, assuming it was beyond my budget. "I come here when I need to think," he explained. "The espresso is excellent, and they respect privacy." Once we were seated with our coffees, an Americano for him, a latte for me, Harrison leaned forward. "I need to explain what happened back there. My wife, Claire, is in London on business. I was looking for an anniversary gift. When I saw you from behind, your height, your hair, even the blue dress, you looked remarkably like her. When that woman slapped you, I reacted instinctively." "It's okay," I said, finally able to process things. "Your intervention probably prevented things from getting worse. Amber doesn't handle public correction well." Harrison's expression darkened slightly. "Family can be complicated. I shouldn't presume to understand your relationship with your sister." "No, you read the situation correctly," I admitted, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. "Amber has always been the favorite child. She's not used to me standing up for myself." "Ah, family dynamics." Harrison nodded. "I'm familiar with the concept. My younger brother and I had a similar relationship for many years." "Did it improve?" I asked, curious. Harrison took a sip of his coffee. "Yes, eventually. It took distance, time, and some difficult conversations. Tyler resented living in my shadow after Innovate Tech took off. He felt compared to me at every turn." "That sounds familiar," I said. "Though in my case, I was always in Amber's shadow." "The underlying issue is the same," Harrison replied. "Comparison is the thief of joy." Once Tyler and I acknowledged the wedge between us and started communicating honestly, things improved. He runs our European operations now, completely on his own merit. The conversation flowed surprisingly easily. Harrison Walsh, the billionaire, spoke without pretension, listening attentively as I explained more about my relationship with Amber and my parents. "So these earrings," he gestured to the Bellamy's bag. "They represent more than just jewelry to you." "They're proof that my work has value," I confirmed. "That I have value, independent of my family's approval." Harrison nodded thoughtfully. "I understand that completely. When I sold my first software at 19, I used the money to buy a ridiculously expensive watch. Not because I needed it, but because it represented validation." "Exactly," I said, surprised at how precisely he'd captured the feeling. Our coffee cups were empty when Harrison glanced at his phone. "I have a meeting in 30 minutes, but I've enjoyed our conversation." He hesitated. "What exactly do you do in graphic design?" "I'm a lead designer at Boyd Creative. We handle branding and marketing for national accounts. I specialize in digital media integration." Harrison's eyes lit with interest. "Digital media integration. We're actually looking for someone with that expertise at Innovate Tech. Our marketing team needs fresh perspectives for our new consumer security app." "Really?" I couldn't hide my surprise. "Would you be interested in sending your portfolio?" No pressure, of course. Just an opportunity to explore. My heart raced. Innovate Tech was known for its innovative work environment and exceptional compensation. Even an interview would be valuable experience. "I'd love to," I replied, trying to sound professional rather than eager. Harrison smiled and pulled out a business card. "Email me directly. I'll make sure it gets to our creative director." As we stood to leave, he paused. One more thing. Don't let your sister's reaction diminish your accomplishment today. Those earrings represent your hard work. Wear them with pride. Thank you, I said, genuinely moved by his continued mentorship. For everything. Walking back to my car, I felt strangely light, despite the morning's drama. The encounter with Amber had been painful, yes, but Harrison's unexpected mentorship had shifted something in my perspective. For perhaps the first time, I'd stood my ground without apologizing for taking up space. My phone buzzed with incoming texts. 3 from my mother, 2 from my father, and 7 from Amber. I silenced it without reading them. Whatever family storm was brewing could wait until I was ready to face it. By the time I arrived home that evening, my phone was a hot mess, 23 texts and 9 missed calls. Amber's texts escalated from angry, "How dare you embarrass me like that," to manipulative, "Mom is really upset with you," to fake conciliatory, "I forgive you for overreacting." My parents' messages were predictably one-sided, demanding I call immediately to explain why I'd caused a scene and humiliated my sister. None of them mentioned the slap. I set the phone aside. Instead, I took out the velvet box containing my new earrings. Under the soft lamplight, the diamonds caught fire, scattering tiny rainbows across my living room wall. They were beautiful, but more importantly, they were mine. Earned through my own efforts, chosen with my own taste, purchased with my own money. Instead of calling my family, I spent the evening polishing my digital portfolio. If Harrison Walsh's offer was genuine, I wanted to be prepared. I selected my strongest projects, updated my resume, and crafted a professional email. The response came the next morning while I was at work, making me almost drop my coffee mug. "Jessica, thank you for sending your impressive portfolio. Our creative director, Amy Sullivan, would like to meet with you this Friday at 2 p.m. For guards, Harrison Walsh." It wasn't just a courtesy introduction, he was actually arranging an interview. I quickly confirmed, then spent the rest of the morning in a haze of disbelief and excitement. That evening, I finally steeled myself to call my parents. As expected, my mother answered with immediate disapproval. "Jessica Marie Hayes, what on earth happened yesterday? Amber is absolutely devastated." I took a deep breath. "Mom, did Amber tell you she slapped me across the face in a public store?" A pause. "She said there was a misunderstanding, that you were making a scene about her engagement." "That's not what happened," I said firmly. "I was buying earrings with money from my recent promotion, which, by the way, no one congratulated me on at Sunday dinner. Amber showed up, criticized me, and when I wouldn't back down, she slapped me hard enough to leave a mark." "Well, I'm sure she didn't mean, she meant it," I interrupted. "And a stranger had to intervene because it was so inappropriate. The store owner asked her to leave." "A stranger?" Mom sounded confused. "Amber mentioned some man getting involved in family business where he didn't belong." I almost laughed. That some man was Harrison Walsh, the founder of Innovate Tech. A billionaire who recognized abusive behavior when he saw it. My mother fell silent, processing this. Finally, she said, "Your sister is still very upset." "I'm sure she is. Being held accountable is upsetting when you're not used to it, Mom." "Jessica, that's a terrible thing to say about your sister." "Is it, Mom? When was the last time Amber faced consequences for her actions? When was the last time you or Dad didn't take her side?" Another pause. "We don't take sides." This time, I did laugh. "Mom, you've been taking sides our entire lives. I'm just finally acknowledging it." "I don't know what's gotten into you," my mother replied, her voice tight. "This isn't like you at all." "Maybe that's the problem," I said quietly. "Maybe it's exactly what should have been like me all along." The conversation ended shortly after, with my mother expressing disappointment in my attitude and suggesting I call Amber to apologize. I promised to think about it, knowing I had no intention of making that call. Friday arrived with a mixture of anticipation and nerves. I chose a professional outfit, wore my new earrings for confidence, and arrived at the sleek Innovate Tech headquarters 15 minutes early. The building was a marvel of modern architecture, all glass and sustainable materials, with a spectacular living wall of tropical plants in the lobby. The receptionist directed me to the 14th floor, where I was greeted by a friendly assistant named Jordan. "Miss Sullivan is running a few minutes late," Jordan explained. "Can I get you water or coffee?" "Water would be great." "Thank you." As Jordan walked away, a familiar voice called my name. Harrison Walsh approached with a warm smile, dressed more casually than our first meeting. "Jessica, glad you could make it. How are you?" "Good, thank you." "A bit nervous," I admitted. "No need to be. Amy was impressed with your portfolio, particularly the Sunrise Healthcare campaign. She's eager to meet you." We chatted briefly until a striking woman with copper-colored hair and vibrant green glasses approached. "You must be Jessica," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Amy Sullivan. Sorry for the delay. Creative emergencies, you know how it is." "Absolutely," I smiled, instantly liking her direct manner. "Harrison, are you sitting in?" Amy asked. "If that's all right with both of you," he replied. "I have a personal interest in this particular hire." Amy raised an eyebrow but nodded. The interview was unlike any I'd experienced. Rather than standard questions, Amy engaged me in a detailed discussion about design philosophy and creative problem solving. She showed me current Innovate Tech marketing materials and asked for my honest critique, nodding appreciatively at my suggestions. Harrison mostly observed, occasionally asking insightful questions about my collaborative process and adaptability. His presence was supportive, not intimidating, and I found myself speaking with unexpected confidence about my vision and capabilities. "One last question," Amy said, glancing at Harrison before continuing. "Our team works closely with developers who can be, let's say, particular about their creations. How do you handle strong personalities and creative conflicts?" I thought about the countless times I'd navigated Amber's demands and my parents' expectations. Finding diplomatic solutions while preserving my own boundaries. "I believe in finding the common goal beneath the conflict," I replied. "Most creative disagreements stem from everyone wanting the best outcome but seeing different paths to get there. I try to honor each perspective while keeping the ultimate purpose in focus." Amy nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Well, Jessica, this has been illuminating. We have a few more candidates to interview, but you'll hear from us by next Wednesday." As Amy gathered her notes, Harrison asked, "Do you have time for a quick tour before you leave?" "I'd love that," I replied, surprised. Harrison led me through the innovative workspace. The environment was collaborative yet focused, with thoughtful amenities like quiet pods, standing desks, and a stunning rooftop garden where employees could work outdoors. "What do you think?" Harrison asked as we stood on the rooftop, overlooking the city. "It's incredible," I answered. "Honestly, everything seems designed to support both creativity and well-being." "That's exactly the balance we strive for," he nodded. "When people feel valued, they produce their best work." As we returned to the lobby, Harrison paused. "I hope you don't find this intrusive, but I wanted to ask, how are things with your family after Tuesday's incident?" I sighed. "Complicated. They expect me to apologize to Amber. They don't see her behavior as the problem." Harrison's expression was thoughtful. "Family patterns are persistent. It took years for my brother and me to break ours." He hesitated, then added, "Whatever happens with this position, Jessica, don't lose the confidence you showed at Bellamy's. That kind of self-advocacy is valuable everywhere, not just in jewelry stores." "Thank you," I said, genuinely moved by his continued mentorship. "That means a lot." As I drove home, I reflected on the strange sequence of events. A painful public confrontation had somehow opened doors I never imagined approaching. Whether or not I got the job, something fundamental had shifted in how I viewed myself and my capabilities. My phone buzzed as I pulled into my apartment complex. It was Amber. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. "Hello, Jessica." Her voice was tight. "We need to talk about what happened." I took a deep breath. "Yes, we do. But not if the conversation begins with you expecting me to apologize." "Excuse me?" Her tone sharpened. "You embarrassed me in front of my friends." "No, Amber. You embarrassed yourself by slapping me in public. That's assault, by the way." "Don't be so dramatic." "It was barely a tap." "It was hard enough to leave a mark," I countered. "And you did it because I wouldn't let you make me feel bad about buying something nice for myself." "This isn't about the stupid earrings," she snapped. "It's about you trying to steal attention from my engagement." The familiar accusation might once have made me defensive. Now it just sounded pathetic. "Amber, buying earrings has nothing to do with your engagement. Not everything is about you." "You've changed," she said accusingly. "You're not the same sister anymore." "You're right," I agreed. "I have changed. I'm not going to shrink myself to make you comfortable anymore." The line went silent for several seconds. When Amber spoke again, her voice was cooler, more controlled. "Mom and Dad want us all at dinner this Sunday. They expect you to be there." It was a command, not an invitation. In the past, I would have complied automatically. "I'll think about it," I said instead. "I have a lot going on right now." "What could you possibly have going on?" The dismissive tone was so familiar, it almost made me laugh. "Actually, I just interviewed at Innovate Tech." "That some man who intervened at the jewelry store?" "He arranged it." Another silence. "You're making that up." "Why would I make that up?" "To sound important," Amber replied. But I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. Nobody gets jobs through random encounters. "Believe what you want," I said, suddenly tired. "I need to go. If I decide to come Sunday, I'll let Mom know." I ended the call before she could respond, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and liberation. The familiar script of our relationship was changing. And while change was necessary, it wasn't painless. Sunday arrived with a text from my mother. "Dinner at 5. Dad's making his pot roast. Please be on time and dress nicely." No mention of our tense conversation or the incident. It was as if she expected everything to revert to normal through sheer force of will. In the past, I might have complied, showing up with a placating smile. Instead, I texted back, "I'll be there at 5:15. I have errands to run first." A small rebellion, but significant. I was no longer agreeing to their terms without question. I dressed carefully, black jeans, a forest green blouse, and after a moment's deliberation, my new diamond earrings. They caught the light as I turned my head, reminding me of the strength I'd found at Bellamy's. Whatever happened at dinner, I would not diminish myself to keep the peace. The drive felt longer than usual. I rehearsed potential responses, practicing firm but calm replies. By 5:17, my palms were sweating, but my resolve was intact. My father answered the door. "You're late," he said by way of greeting. "Hello to you, too, Dad," I replied, stepping past him into the familiar entryway. The house smelled of pot roast and tension. In the living room, Amber scrolled through her phone. She glanced up. "Look who finally decided to show up," she commented to no one in particular. I chose not to engage. I walked through to the kitchen, where my mother was arranging a salad. She looked up with a tight smile. "Jessica, good. You're here. Could you set the table?" The familiar request, always directed at me, never at Amber, almost made me acquiesce automatically. Instead, I paused. Actually, Mom, I thought we might talk first about what happened at Bellamy's. Her hands stilled on the salad tongs. I don't think that's necessary. We've all had time to cool down. Let's just have a nice family dinner. A nice family dinner where we pretend Amber didn't slap me in public? Where we act like nothing happened. My mother's smile became strained. Jessica, please. Your sister is under a lot of stress with the wedding planning. Let's not make mountains out of molehills. The minimization was so predictable, it was almost comical. Before I could respond, Amber appeared in the doorway. Are you still going on about that? It was days ago. 5 days, I corrected. And yes, I'm still going on about it, because no one has acknowledged what actually happened. My father joined us, his expression wary. What's all this about? Jessica is being dramatic about our little disagreement at the jewelry store. Amber rolled her eyes. It wasn't a disagreement. You slapped me across the face because I wouldn't let you bully me. Girls. My father interjected. Let's calm down. I am calm. I interrupted. I am stating facts. Amber assaulted me in public. A store owner witnessed it and asked her to leave. A complete stranger had to intervene. That man had no right to get involved in family business, my mother said primly. That man, I emphasized, recognized abusive behavior when he saw it. Something this family seems incapable of doing. A heavy silence fell. My mother's face paled. My father's eyebrows drew together. Abusive, he repeated. That's a serious accusation, Jessica. It's not an accusation. It's a description, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Amber has been verbally tearing me down for years, and you've both enabled it. Tuesday was just the first time it became physical. That is completely unfair. Amber protested. I've always been supportive of you. The blatant revision of history might once have made me doubt my own experience. Now it just reinforced my resolve. Name one time, I challenged. One specific instance where you supported me instead of competing with me or diminishing my achievements. Amber opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes darted to our parents for rescue. Jessica, my mother began, her tone conciliatory. Families have ups and downs. Nobody's perfect, but we love each other, and that's what matters. Love without respect isn't love, I replied. It's control. And I'm done being controlled. What does that mean? My father asked, his voice sharpening with concern. I took a deep breath. It means I'm setting boundaries. I won't participate in family gatherings where Amber's behavior is excused and mine is policed. I won't pretend everything is fine when it isn't. And I won't apologize for standing up for myself. So, you're giving us an ultimatum? My father's tone was incredulous. No. I'm telling you what I need to have a healthy relationship with all of you. What you do with that information is your choice. Amber scoffed. This is ridiculous. You're acting like I committed some horrible crime. It was one slap. One slap too many, I replied evenly. And it's not just about the slap. It's about years of being treated as less than. Of having my accomplishments minimized while yours are celebrated. That's not true, my mother protested. We've always been proud of both our girls. Really? When I told you about my promotion, you barely acknowledged it. When Amber announced her engagement to a man she's dated for 5 months, you threw an impromptu celebration. That's different, my father interjected. An engagement is a life event. And a significant career advancement isn't? I challenged. Or is it just that Amber's achievements align with what you value, while mine don't? The question hung in the air, uncomfortable in its accuracy. My mother busied herself with the salad, avoiding eye contact. My father shifted his weight, looking suddenly older. "Those are pretty earrings," my mother said abruptly, changing the subject. "New?" "Yes," I touched one reflexively. "These are what I was buying when Amber slapped me." "They look expensive," she commented, her tone still hinting at disapproval. They were. I could afford them because of my promotion. "Well, they're lovely," she conceded reluctantly. We moved to the dining room in uneasy silence. As we took our usual seats, I noticed Mom had set a fifth place. "Are we expecting someone?" I asked. "Trevor is joining us," Amber replied with a smug smile. "My fiancé should be part of family dinners, don't you think?" The emphasis on fiancé was deliberate, a transparent attempt to reclaim superiority. I almost pitied her. The doorbell rang. Amber jumped up, returning moments later with Trevor, who gave me a pleasant nod. "Trevor, you remember my sister Jessica?" she said, her tone suggesting I was a distant acquaintance. "Of course," he smiled. "Congratulations on your promotion. Amber mentioned you work in graphic design." "She did?" I couldn't hide my surprise. "Yes," I confirmed. "You're quite talented." I glanced at Amber, who was suddenly very interested in adjusting her napkin. Had she actually said something positive about me? "Thank you," I replied. "And congratulations on your engagement." Dinner proceeded with careful conversation. My father discussed a school board meeting. My mother described issues with her boutique's new inventory. Trevor shared details about a property listing. As dessert was served, my mother's apple pie, Trevor noticed my earrings. "Those are beautiful," he commented. "Amber was telling me about your visit to Bellamy's. Quite an upscale place." The reference to our visit made Amber tense visibly. I wondered what version of events she had shared with her fiancé. "Yes, it was my first time there," I replied carefully. "I had an unexpected encounter with Harrison Walsh while shopping." Trevor's eyebrows shot up. "The Harrison Walsh? Of Innovate Tech?" "The same," I confirmed. "Actually, I interviewed at his company on Friday." "You did?" My mother interjected, clearly surprised. "You didn't mention that." "I wasn't sure you'd be interested," I replied honestly. "It's just a career opportunity, not a life event." My father winced slightly, having his own words reflected back. "Of course we're interested," he said. "Tell us about it." So, I did. Describing the impressive headquarters, Amy Sullivan's engaging interview style, the innovative work environment. As I spoke, I realized my family was listening with genuine attention, for perhaps the first time in years. "They said they'll let me know by Wednesday," I concluded. It would be a significant step up in both responsibility and compensation. "That's wonderful, Jessica," my mother said, and I was surprised by the sincerity in her voice. "We are proud of you, you know, even if we don't always show it properly." The simple acknowledgement brought unexpected tears to my eyes. It wasn't an apology, but it was a beginning. Amber remained quiet. But as we cleared dessert plates, she approached me in the kitchen. "Did you really meet Harrison Walsh?" she asked, her voice low. "Yes," I replied, rinsing a plate. "He mistook me for his wife at first." Amber was silent for a moment. "That's actually pretty cool," she said. I looked at her, searching for sarcasm, but her expression seemed genuine. "The earrings do look nice on you," she added awkwardly. I shouldn't have made such a scene at the store. It wasn't exactly an apology, but coming from Amber, it was significant. I decided to meet her halfway. "Thank you. And your ring is beautiful. Trevor seems like a good person." She nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. "He is. He actually lectured me about the slapping thing." said it was unacceptable. Smart man, I commented, surprised and impressed by Trevor's moral compass. Yeah, Amber agreed. Maybe I got lucky with this one. As I drove home that night, I reflected on the subtle shifts. Nothing had been dramatically resolved. No tearful group hugs. But something had changed in me, certainly, and possibly in them as well. My phone pinged with a text. It was from an unknown number. Jessica, it's Harrison Walsh. Amy was very impressed with your interview. Before we make a formal offer, Claire would like to meet you. She returns from London tomorrow. Lunch on Tuesday. Let me know if you're available. I stared at the message, hardly daring to believe what it implied. A formal offer from Innovate Tech. As I typed my enthusiastic acceptance, I caught sight of my reflection in the rearview mirror. The diamonds in my ears caught the streetlight, sparkling like tiny stars. They were beautiful, yes, but what they represented was far more valuable. The moment I decided my worth wasn't determined by my sister's opinion or my parents' approval. Sometimes the most painful confrontations led to the most important growth. And sometimes a slap in a jewelry store could change the entire direction of a life. 1 month later, I sat at my sleek new desk on the 12th floor of Innovate Tech headquarters, putting the finishing touches on a presentation for the security app launch. My workspace overlooked the city skyline, with natural light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. A small potted succulent, a welcome gift from my team, sat beside my dual monitors. The transition had been swift and exhilarating. After meeting Claire Walsh, a warm, intelligent woman who bore an uncanny resemblance to me from certain angles, I'd received the formal offer the next day. The salary was nearly double what I'd been making, with benefits that included stock options, flexible work, and a professional development allowance. Giving notice to Natalie had been bittersweet. She'd been a supportive boss, but even she couldn't deny the opportunity was too good to pass up. How did you even get on their radar? She'd asked, genuinely curious. When I explained the jewelry store incident, she laughed. Only you, Jessica, would turn getting slapped in public into a career advancement. My new position as senior creative strategist came with both autonomy and responsibility. I led a small team, developing the visual identity and user experience for Innovate Tech's consumer products. The work was challenging and fulfilling, pushing me to expand my skills while valuing my existing expertise. Claire had become an unexpected friend and ally. Despite her wealth and position, she was refreshingly unpretentious. We occasionally had lunch in the rooftop garden, where she shared insights about navigating the corporate world and building genuine relationships. Harrison told me about the situation with your sister, she confided during one lunch. I have a similar dynamic with my brother. It took years of therapy for me to stop seeking his approval. Her openness made me feel less alone in my family struggles. Harrison maintained a professional distance at work, treating me exactly as he did other team members. But occasionally, he'd stop by my desk with a thoughtful question or suggestion. His mentorship was subtle, but consistent. The other employees seemed to accept me on my own merits, not as Harrison's find, which was a relief. At home, I'd upgraded to a slightly larger apartment. The move had been partly practical, closer to Innovate Tech, but also symbolic. A fresh start to match my new professional chapter. My diamond earrings held a place of honor in my jewelry box, worn for important presentations and moments when I needed to remind myself of my worth. They represented not just a purchase, but a pivotal moment. The day I stopped shrinking to accommodate others' insecurities. My phone buzzed with a text from Amber. Our relationship had entered a strange new phase. Not close, exactly, but less antagonistic. After the Sunday dinner confrontation, she kept her distance for 2 weeks before sending a brief message. I've been thinking about what happened. I shouldn't have slapped you. That was wrong. I'm sorry. The apology had been sparse, but seemingly sincere. I'd responded with equal brevity, thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate the apology. Since then, we'd exchanged occasional texts, mostly surface-level updates, but without the undercurrent of competition. Today's message was more substantive. Mom's birthday dinner next Saturday, 6 p.m. Trevor and I have news to share. Would like you to be there. I considered the invitation. Family gatherings were still somewhat tense, but each one seemed less fraught than the last. My parents had made small but noticeable efforts to show interest in my new job and life. My father had even visited my new apartment, helping install shelves and expressing genuine admiration for my career advancement. I'll be there, I texted back. Need me to bring anything? Just yourself, came the reply, followed by a second message, and maybe those earrings. Mom mentioned she liked them. The simple acknowledgement made me smile. A month ago, Amber would never have suggested I wear something that might draw attention or compliments. At the end of the workday, I met Claire in the lobby as planned. We developed a tradition of Friday evening walks through the nearby sculpture garden, discussing everything from work projects to book recommendations to family dynamics. How was your week? She asked. Productive, I replied. The security app interface is nearly finalized, and I hired a junior designer who is incredibly talented with animation. Harrison mentioned your team is ahead of schedule. He's impressed. I felt a flush of pride at the indirect praise. What about you? How was the technology conference? As Claire described her experiences as a keynote speaker, I reflected on how much my life had transformed in just 4 weeks. Beyond the material improvements, better job, nicer apartment, increased financial security, the most significant change was internal. I moved through the world differently now, with confidence rather than apology. The journey hadn't been easy. I'd spent several sessions with a therapist, unpacking the family patterns that had shaped my self-perception. Learning to set boundaries without guilt remained a daily practice. But each small victory reinforced my resolve. You seem contemplative today, Claire observed as we paused near a modern sculpture. I was just thinking about how different things were a month ago, I admitted. Sometimes I still can't believe that Amber slapping me in Bellamy's led to all this. Claire smiled. The catalyst isn't always pleasant, is it? But sometimes we need a shock to break old patterns. True, I nodded. Though I wouldn't recommend getting publicly assaulted as a career strategy. We both laughed, continuing our walk as the evening light turned golden. Later that night, as I prepared dinner in my new kitchen, I found myself humming contentedly. My phone pinged with an email notification. The professional development course I'd applied for had been approved. Another small victory. Another step forward. I thought about the upcoming birthday dinner with my family. There would likely be awkward moments, perhaps even tensions. Amber's news might be pregnancy, wedding details, or some other life event that would once again center her in the family narrative. But that was okay. Her moments of celebration didn't diminish mine. There was room for both our stories. The earrings would come with me, not as armor this time, but as a reminder. A reminder that standing in my truth, even when uncomfortable, had led to growth I couldn't have imagined. A reminder that sometimes the most painful confrontations create space for the most meaningful transformations. My journey from that moment in Bellamy's jewelry to my current life hadn't been linear or simple. The path to self-worth rarely is, but each step had been necessary. The humiliation of the slap, the unexpected alliance with Harrison, the confrontation with my family, the opportunity at Innovate Tech, the ongoing work of maintaining boundaries. The diamonds caught the light as I placed them in my jewelry box for Saturday's dinner. They sparkled not just with their inherent brilliance, but with the story they now carried. My story of finding value beyond others' validation. Sometimes life's most important lessons come wrapped in painful packages. Sometimes the moments that feel like endings are actually beginnings. And sometimes, when someone tries to make you feel small, the most powerful response is to expand into your full, magnificent self. Have you ever experienced a painful moment that ultimately led to positive change in your life? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this journey resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need this message today. Remember, your worth isn't determined by others' opinions. It's inherent, unchangeable, and absolutely real. Thank you for listening. Take care.